I believe that everybody deserves a second chance at redemption, and democracy is stronger when it fully represents everyone.
Desmond Meade, a voting rights activist who has dedicated his life to restoring this right to people with criminal records. Meade was convicted of a misdemeanor in 1990 and lost his right to vote. After being released from prison, he dedicated himself to restoring this right for others. And in 2016 was one of the main organizers of the campaign to pass Amendment 4 to the Florida Constitution, which restored the right to vote to over 1.4 million people with criminal records. In 2019, Meade was named one of the 100 most influential people in the world by Time magazine. In 2021, he received a MacArthur Genius Grant. Today we meet Desmond Meade, a man who has dedicated his life to the fight for justice.
Dr. Malu Harrison.
Good morning. How's everybody doing this morning? Great. I'm speaking to the group of students, faculty, and staff from the North Campus, but also joined by all 8 campuses of Miami-Dade College for this Changemaking Week at our institution. And so on behalf of President Madeline Pumariega, I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to Changemaking Week at Miami-Dade College. You know, it's very interesting this year because we just celebrated Miami-Dade College's 63rd birthday. And I hope all of you were a part of the celebrations and the commemorations that took place across our 8 campuses. What's really interesting is that at Miami-Dade College, a change maker institution, more than 2.5 million people have passed through the doors of Miami-Dade College, have passed through the classrooms, have been touched by our outstanding world-class faculty, many of whom are here today in this Lehman Theater and are with us via broadcast at the other 7 campuses. Change-making is in the DNA of Miami-Dade College. It happens every single day in and out of our classrooms, with our faculty, with our dedicated staff. And so today, as we kick off Changemaking Week at Miami-Dade College, for the next 7 days, we will have over 90 workshops, convenings, gatherings, forums, conversations, days of impact, all toward making a difference in the lives of those in our community, our own lives and those of others in the community, making our community a much better place than it is today. And when I think about this Changemaking Week, I think about a year ago, just about a year ago, when I gave the challenge to Sandra LaFleur. And where's Miss LaFleur? She was right there. There she is. Let's give our director a round of applause. Sandra, look up, because your leadership, your intellectuality, what you have in your heart and mind as it pertains to change making is truly palpable. And it's palpable because we have felt it, and you have led the way along with the entire college community toward change making. So thank you very much, and I wanted to take this point of opportunity to thank you for your leadership and what you've contributed in this regard. But let me say, and you all know this, I'm preaching to the choir, that change making is not a noun in of itself. It's not only a verb, but change making, again, is in our DNA. It's a mindset. It's who we are, it's our being, it's what we do and who we are and the impact that we make. Just yesterday, this weekend, a group of our Student Government Association students were on Miami Beach, actually doing a huge cleanup. And the hundreds and hundreds of pounds of litter, of plastic, that they were able to collect along with others in the community, again, palpable. Truly, truly palpable in terms of the impact. So today and for the next 7 days, let's renew our commitment to change making. When we think about the United Nations Development Program goals, the eradication of hunger, of poverty, addressing climate change, ensuring that there's quality education for all, that we would erase all inequities in the world. Let's recommit together to upholding those UNDP goals and creating impact around them. That is what our mission is in life. And as one of democracy's colleges, Miami-Dade College certainly stands tall in that regard. Not because of the name Miami-Dade College, but because of the people. Our students, our faculty and staff together as a team, making our world, our community, a much better place for us to live in and for those generations to come. Today we're going to hear from someone who's not a stranger, someone who we admire and respect very highly. And he's none other than an alum of Miami-Dade College, and he's Desmond Meade. Let's give him a round of applause. He's not ready to come up yet, but let's give Mr. Meade a round of applause. You know, it's always a point of pride and an inspiration to welcome an alum home, particularly one who has made waves of impact, waves of positive impact in his own life and the life of others, who has created paths to sustainability, self-sufficiency for others. And he will be more formally introduced in a few moments. But Mr. Meade, welcome back home. Welcome back to your alma mater. You really never left us, and we appreciate you being here today. Have a wonderful week. Remember the pink walk at the end of this week, that we're all going to engage in that 5K run. I'll be walking, but we're all welcome to walk and run for the cause of eradicating and executing research on cancer and cancer awareness. So have a wonderful week. Thank you so very much. Welcome to Miami-Dade College's Changemaking Week 2023, the inaugural event here today. Thank you.
And now, an MDC changemaker in her own right, who will now share a few words about her outstanding former student. Please welcome the 2022 Endowed Teaching Chair in Criminal Justice, Professor Samantha Carlo.
Vertically challenged. So, good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming to this important event. And I'm so proud to be here to talk about my former student. So I'm going to tell a little story. 14 years ago, I first met Desmond Meade when I walked into room 9208 right here on the North Campus in Building 9 to teach an introduction to corrections class in the fall of 2009. I do remember Desmond on that first day. He was a little more mature than the other students in my class. He sat in the front row with his laptop, and laptops were not a common presence back then in classrooms. Students were actually still taking notes by hand, not on their iPhones. I remember thinking to myself, this is a diligent student. He's sitting up front. Most of my other students are holding up the back wall. My class covers the history of the correctional system in the United States. And in this class, we discussed the criminal justice policies implemented in the 1980s and 1990s that led to skyrocketing correctional populations. We also cover the responsibilities of the correctional system in that class and discuss a lot of the shortcomings of the system. Reflecting back on our class discussions, as he still does today, Desmond certainly had his opinions about criminal justice policies and procedures. Never once, while in my class that semester, did Desmond share his history with me. He earned his A in my class, which is not easy, and it was only after the semester concluded that Desmond asked to meet with me in my office. He shared with me his story. He was formerly incarcerated, formerly homeless, and formerly addicted to drugs. Notice I did not say he was an inmate, a felon, or an addict. You see, what we call people matters. Language matters. And Desmond in my office at that time, in 2009, was so much more than the labels that society puts on people who share Desmond's story. Fast forward, Desmond earned his Associate of Arts, his Associate of Science, and his bachelor's degree from Miami-Dade College with stellar grades. After graduating from MDC, he applied and got accepted into law school at Florida International University. I coincidentally also started law school around the same time, but for many different reasons than Desmond. I wanted to be a better versed professor for my students in my criminal and constitutional law classes. Desmond wanted to change the world. I remember us lamenting over our contracts class and probably a few other things, but Desmond's eye was always on the prize, the restoration of voting rights for those in Florida who had a prior felony conviction on their record and had a lifetime ban from voting. You see, before Desmond got involved, those with a felony conviction were subject to a lifetime ban from voting. Desmond eventually became the executive director of the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. He was traveling the state, the country, and the world advocating for Amendment 4. And I remember calling him, and he was like in Switzerland, so he was around the world. He occasionally came back and spoke to my classes about his movement. My most striking memory with Desmond was in 2016. He left his house in Orlando at 5 a.m. to drive down to South Florida to meet me at the Everglades Correctional Institution to be a guest speaker in one of my classes at the prison. I remember correctly, this was the first, he left his house at 5 a.m. to meet us there to be a guest speaker. If I remember correctly, this was the first time that Desmond returned to prison after release over a decade prior. I remember this day well. It was the day after the 2016 presidential election. I was up all night and drove to the prison in sort of a daze. Without getting too political, I must admit I was not thinking about Desmond's visit with my students. I was actually thinking about the future of the country and what kind of world my daughter would be growing up in. She was 5 at the time of the 2016 election. Desmond, my good friend and colleague Dr. Brantley, and I sat on the bench waiting for approval to enter into the prison. And instead of me helping Desmond get emotionally and psychologically ready to walk into prison for the first time as a free man, he was counseling me and ensuring me that everything was going to be okay despite the election results. I'm not sure if he remembers this, but I was crying like an infant, and my former student, now colleague, was acting as my mentor. Fast forward to now, I mostly see Desmond on a magazine cover or on my television, to the point where now my 12-year-old daughter says, "Hey, Mommy, it's Mr. Desmond on our TV again." He's won numerous accolades and accomplishments, including leading the successful effort to restore the voting rights of over 1.4 million Floridians, being named one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in the world, and a MacArthur Genius Fellow. Desmond and I see each other a few times a year in our shared spaces of advocacy for criminal justice reform and in promoting policies that benefit society, and in particular the communities we live and work in. We share the vision that a just system permits people to earn redemption and the restoration of their dignity once they have served their sentence. We as a society cannot place a perpetual stigma on people who complete their prison or probation sentence. A criminal conviction in Florida should never be a life sentence where people are not free to move past their indiscretions and thrive. These are some of the reasons why Dr. Brantley and I started our higher education and prison program. People gain self-worth through education. People gain self-worth and become empowered when they feel connected to their communities, when they can vote, and when they feel respected. Speaking of respect, I now want to call to the stage a man, a husband, a father, a community leader, and my former student and forever friend, Desmond Meade.
Good morning. Wait, that was a lot quieter than the applause. Good morning. Good morning. Yes. First of all, thank you for that introduction, Professor Carlo. And I must say that it is an honor to be back home. To be back home. And I am humbled that, I was thought enough to be asked to kick off Changemaker Week. I didn't think I was a change maker in August of 2005. You know why? Because August of 2005, I was actually standing in front of railroad tracks on a hot and humid August day, waiting on a train to come so I can jump in front of it. That day, I stood there. I was a broken man. I was at the lowest in my life. I didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. I was homeless. I was addicted to drugs. I was unemployed, and I was recently released from prison. And as I stood there, I knew that my parents didn't raise me to be in that position, but there I was. And the main thing that was going through my head at the time was how much pain I was going to feel when that train ran into my body. Whether I was going to die instantly or I had to go through moments of agonizing pain. And let me tell you, I'm a big guy, but I'm still a wimp. I'm scared of needles. I don't like pain. But even the thought of the pain that I may have had to endure as that train crushed my body, it was not enough to make me move. And so I stood there and I waited. Felt like I was a disappointment to my family. I thought I was a disappointment to my friends. And I thought that I had nothing to offer this world. And so I might as well end it right now. And so I stood there and I waited. And I waited. And I waited. I didn't have any self-esteem. There was nothing to hope for, nothing to dream about. I was ready. But I tell folks that God had other plans. And for some reason, that train would not come that day. And I look back and wonder about that even today, because those tracks that I stood in front of was the tracks that led to the port of Miami, which is the busiest port on the East Coast. And there was always trains running past like every 10, 15 minutes. But that day, while I was there, none came. And so I crossed those tracks and I walked a couple blocks further and I checked myself into a substance abuse treatment facility. And after being there for about 4 months, I actually moved back into a homeless shelter. And notice I said back into, because it wasn't my first time being in a homeless shelter, nor was it my first time having to go through drug treatment. But I moved back in there, and while there, I thought about my situation, and my initial motivation was that, man, I didn't want to get high anymore. I didn't want to experience a relapse. I didn't want to pick up another drug anymore, because I felt that if I did and I came across some railroad tracks again, this time I wouldn't be so lucky. And so the thing that came to my mind was that my mother always told me about the power of education. And so I figured, well, maybe if I can get an education, maybe that would raise my self-esteem enough to where I wouldn't think I had to use drugs, or I wouldn't end up in front of railroad tracks again. And so I enrolled in Miami-Dade College, a college that I used to go by all the time as a homeless person, as an addict, thinking that I would never, ever have an opportunity to experience what those people were experiencing in those walls on that campus. And I took a shot and then I enrolled, and to my surprise, I was able to start attending classes. And eventually I enrolled into the paralegal program, and I ended up graduating with highest honors. I think I was an honor grad that year. And then I was encouraged by my professors to continue my education, so I pursued a bachelor's degree in public safety management with a concentration in criminal justice. And I picked that because I figured, since I had a lot of experience getting arrested and a lot of experience being incarcerated, that somehow or another, that experience would actually help me be successful in class. And that's why Professor Carlo said I got an A. She was a tough professor. But I knew a thing or two about the criminal justice system because I was so intimately involved in it. And I ended up graduating with my bachelor's with highest honors, and eventually got accepted into law school. And in May of 2014, I graduated from Florida International University College of Law with a Juris Doctorate degree. But when I was at those tracks, no one could have convinced me that I could have been a change maker. I tell folks today that if somebody would have seen me at those tracks and approached me and said, Desmond, please, don't jump. Don't jump, my brother, because in a few years you're gonna go to school and you're gonna end up, graduating from law school, and you're gonna end up, sitting on boards with mayors and commissioners and governors, and you're gonna be counting as your friend judges, and the same people that used to try to prosecute you are not gonna be friends. Desmond, please don't jump. Don't jump, my brother, don't jump. Because in a few years, you're going to meet the President of the United States, not once, but twice. You're going to lead an organization that's going to do amazing things and liberate over 1.4 million people with felony convictions. Please don't jump. Somebody would approach me and said, Desmond, don't jump, because in a few years, you're going to be named one of the 100 most influential people, not in the country, but in the entire world. My brother, don't jump. Don't jump. If somebody would have told me, please, Desmond, don't jump in front of that train, because you're going to be named one of the MacArthur genius. If they would have came and told me, Desmond, don't jump, because that organization that you're going to start is going to be the first organization led by people with a prior felony conviction who is going to be nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Don't jump, my brother. Don't jump. Don't jump. Because you're going to be a change maker. If somebody would have told me that, I probably would have put them in a headlock and demanded that they take me to where they got that good dope they smoking. Because there's no way that you could have convinced me when I stood there at those tracks that in a matter of years that my life would be transformed from a homeless drug addict, a homeless crack addict with a record a mile long and nothing to live for, could become a change maker. And so I jumped at the opportunity to be here this morning because my story says that if I can do it, what they say about you. I remember when I went to the gala, the year that I was named one of the 100 most influential people in the world, between Taylor Swift and Lady Gaga and Michelle Obama, which I thought was great company. I remember going to the gala and sitting down, and I had the privilege of sitting at the table with some Time magazine executives, and I told them, I said, y'all messed up. Y'all really messed up. And they were like, what are you talking about? What did we do wrong? And I said, that edition of Time 100, you put Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson on the cover. Y'all should have had me on the cover. Not only because I look better than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, right, but primarily because, and I told him this with all sincerity, and it wasn't me being conceited or anything, but I told him that with me being on the cover, any of your readers looking at that issue would know that you don't have to be a movie star. You don't have to be an athlete. You don't have to be a millionaire. You don't even have to be a politician to become an influential person in the world. That if that guy on the cover, Desmond Meade, who was once homeless, who was once addicted to crack, who was once in and out of prisons and jails, if that guy there can be one of the 100 most influential people in the world, then that means that I can also be. And so each and every one of you in this auditorium, and each and every one of you that's listening to me through live stream, you ask yourself, if that guy can do it, what does that say about you? Each and every one of you all have an opportunity to be a change maker. Each and every one of you have an opportunity to be one of the 100 most influential people in the world. Each and every one of you have an opportunity to not only transform yourselves or the lives of your family and friends and your community, but you have the potential, the ability to transform not only a community or a state or a country, but each and every one of you have the ability and the potential to transform the world. As you're sitting in your seats, as you're watching this feed, I can tell you with all degree of certainty that no matter what situation you're facing today, right now, no matter what situation you may face in your future, there is nothing that you cannot overcome. There is no challenge that you cannot overcome. There is no obstacle that you cannot turn into an opportunity to do amazing things and to have an impact in other people's lives. You know, one of the stories I like to tell is about a good friend of mine, Frank, whose son was murdered many years ago, and I remember attending his funeral, and it was a Jewish funeral. And I remember the rabbi was talking about how there are two major bodies of water in the Middle East, the Dead Sea and the Sea of Galilee. And how the Dead Sea was exactly that. It was dead, it was void of life, while the Sea of Galilee was a very vibrant body of water, full of life. Right? And you would go there and you would fish and you would jet ski and do all kinds of fun things. And he talked about these two bodies of water and said that both of these bodies of water receive their nutrients from the same source, receive their blessings from the same source. And his question to us was, how could it be that these two bodies of water that receive their nutrients from the same source be so drastically different? How could it be that these bodies of water that receive their blessings from up high be so drastically different, that one is vibrant and full of life and the other one is dead and void of life? And the answer was very simple. You see, the Dead Sea was self-enclosed. So everything it received, it held on to a point where it became oversaturated and it killed itself from within. While the Sea of Galilee had tributaries. And so whatever nutrients or blessings it received, it passed some of them on to what? To others, which created a natural filtration system. Those of you all who ever had fish tanks would know. And when he said that, I thought about how that was so indicative of life in itself. How you could see people that seemingly have everything. The nice cars, the nice clothes, seem to be wealthy, but deep down inside, they're void of love and happiness. And they're a pain to be around. While it could be someone else that may seem like they don't have anything, that maybe have to catch the bus, may not have the fancy clothes, but they have such a beautiful, loving spirit that it is it's pleasant to be around them. And I understood that story to mean that my life becomes worthy and worthwhile. My life becomes a thriving and prosperous life when I take whatever it is that I get and I pass it on to others. You see, I realized that my situation at those tracks gave me an opportunity to take something that was negative and turn it into something that was positive. You see, because I thought about taking that pain and that frustration and that low self-esteem and all those things that led me to those railroad tracks to want to kill myself, taking those very same things and using it in such a way to impact someone else's life so they don't have to go to those railroad tracks. That they would know that in spite of what they're facing, that there's a better tomorrow. If I could somehow or another package all that and use it to help others, then that experience no longer becomes negative. And now we're engaging in a practice that creates a better world for everyone. Just that simple. Just that simple. I don't have any magic pill. I don't have any other explanation for how I can go from there to here other than giving back. Other than learning what love really is and understanding that the world becomes a better place not when I think about what I can get out of it, but when I try to figure out what can I give to it. How can I pass my blessings on to someone else? I remember being in treatment center, not thinking that, man, God, please give me the great job. God, please make it so one day I can go to Miami-Dade and come back one day as a change maker. God, give me a beautiful and loving wife and a beautiful family and a great job. I didn't pray for any of that. The only thing I prayed for was to be able to have the strength and the stamina and the perseverance to do his work, and his work was very simple, giving back. And it was in giving back. I didn't pray to be a change maker. I just prayed to do his work. But doing his work made me that. And so if I don't leave you with anything today, anything else today, whether you're a student, whether you're faculty, administrator, there's always an opportunity for you to give back. There's always an opportunity for you to make a difference. There's always an opportunity, even in your lowest moments, to be a change maker. Seize that opportunity, and let's create a better world together. Thank you.
First, I wanted to say I really appreciate your story. It resonated with me, and we have a lot of things in common. I, too, am a student of Professor Carlo, and I'm in the bachelor's program. And I wanted to know more about your program. How does your program help felons who were incarcerated or convicted get their rights back to vote?
I'm glad you asked that question because, and Professor Carlo did speak on that a little bit in her introduction, right? And I'm not going to actually answer it in the direction that she probably think I was going to answer it, right? So, first of all, you know, one of the things that my organization does, and, you know, I remember when I was in treatment, and I was talking about when I prayed, I didn't pray for anything personal. I just prayed to do God's work and for him to give me the strength and stamina. And I tell folks that I also didn't pray so that people with felony convictions could have a better life. I didn't even pray for African Americans to have a better life. I did not. You know, my prayer was a more broader prayer about creating a better world, right? How can I take my experience that was negative, turn it into a positive thing so I can have live in a better community, have a better world? And what I didn't realize at the time was that, you know, we've heard the adage that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Well, I believe that, and let me just expand on that. You know, I could have a chain with several links on it, and each of those links could bear, they could withstand a weight of maybe 100 pounds. But there's one link that only could hold 5 pounds. And they're in the chain like your necklace, right? I could only put 5 pounds worth of weight on that necklace before it pops. No matter how strong the other links are, no matter if they could hold 200 pounds, that chain is only going to be able to hold, what? 5 pounds. And so if I want my chain to become stronger, if I want to be able to carry more weight on my chain, then the one thing that I have to do is what? Strengthen that link that could only hold 5 pounds. And so I believe that that's true in our society. That if we want our society, our community, our country, our state to be a better place, then it is imperative that we strengthen those people within our community that has been most weakened by various systems, whether it's systems of oppression, systems of racism, right, systems of mass incarceration, whether it's a narrative, right, people that have been weakened by a narrative that says that some lives are just better than others, right? And so we have to strengthen those within our community that has been most weakened. And it is my opinion that those group of people happen to be people who've been impacted by the criminal justice system. And so because I want a better world, so people ask me, you know, Samantha Carlo would say, hey, Desmond is fighting for people with felony convictions. No, I am fighting for each and every one of you. When I was on my knees praying to create a better community, I was praying for each and every one of you in this room right now, even though I didn't know you. And you're like, how could that be? Because as a person that's been in the depths of hell and have emerged from that, I have a deeper understanding and appreciation for our humanity. For our humanity. And so that's what I'm fighting for more than anything. And so if we can, but I know that if we could change, you see, this is one of the ultimate goals. If I can get the world to love a person who is convicted of a felony offense, then that means that that's a world that's capable of loving anyone, right? If they can love a person who they want to label forever a felon or a convict, right, and use these dehumanizing words, if they can love someone who they despise so much that they're willing to lock them in a cage like an animal, if I can get the world to see the humanity in them, then they can see humanity in an immigrant. They could see in humanity in someone that may be LGBTQ. They could see the humanity in someone that may have a different political view, different religious view, different skin color, different ethnicity. They could see the humanity in anyone if they're able to see the humanity in who they most despise. And so one of the ways that we start to move towards that progress is getting people to see humanity in people with felony convictions enough to say that they should have a voice, that they should be able to vote. And thankfully in Florida, the majority of over 65% of Florida voters believed in that view. Thank you for that question. Do we have time for one more?
Good morning, Desmond.
Good morning, Professor Spann.
For those of you who...
Professor James Spann.
Thank you. For those of you who may not know me, Desmond is one of my former students from the Paralegal Studies program. And I don't have a question, but I have to acknowledge something that you did, Changemaker, in the life of one of my family members. You know where I'm going with this. Several years ago, my nephew, my youngest nephew, had been in and out of jail and in and out of federal prison. And our conversation basically went one way. Uncle James, my life is over. My life is over. I'll never be worth anything. I can't vote. I can't even get a job. So one day at a Home Depot, when he was working with me, I thought about Desmond. Don't ask me how. I don't know how. But I mentioned to my nephew that there was a young man that I had the privilege and pleasure of teaching at Miami-Dade College. And I knew of his past because Desmond was always an open person. We had conversations about it, just like he did with Professor Carlo. He was a transparent person. And we always had the conversation of, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So that day I spoke to my nephew. And I said, there's a young man that I'm going to tell you about. His name is Desmond Meade. And I began to go on and on about his past. And he turned to me, my nephew turned to me and he said, what is his name, Uncle James? I said, it's Desmond Meade. Desmond and I were locked up together. What did you say? Desmond and I were locked up together. No, you're not serious. Yes, I am. So I had Desmond's number. I called Desmond on a Saturday morning, and Desmond answered that phone call. He spoke into the life of my nephew. I'm trying not to get emotional. My nephew's life was changed forever. No more trouble. Got married, got his life on track, enrolled at Broward College. Married with children now, has never been in trouble for 12 years. A change maker, not talking, but doing it.
Woo! What an incredible message, Mr. Meade.
That was a drop the mic moment right there, so I'm going to exit stage left on that one. Thank you so much, Professor Spann. And that's what each and every one of you all have the ability to do, and it goes beyond just one person. But I could tell you this, whatever pain and suffering and obstacles you have to overcome, if it's used just to change the life of one person, all of that pain and suffering became worthwhile. Thank you.
What an incredible message, Mr. Meade. Thank you. And now for some parting remarks, please welcome our very own North Campus President, Mr. Fermin Vasquez.
Wow, what a story, what inspiring words. Desmond, you make us all so proud to hear about your story, how you're changing the world, how you're changing your fellow friends on the inside lives. And I know that today we embark upon Changemaking Week, the inaugural Changemaking Week. Students all throughout Miami-Dade College, there's 81, calculate that, 81 events, which I know will impact hundreds, if not thousands of students, become a change maker, not only at MDC, but throughout your life. But without continuing and wrapping up today's program, I'm going to ask for Provost Harrison, Dr. Minka Davis-Brantley, Professor Samantha Carlo, Professor Spaz, if you could come up, because we like to present Mr. Meade with a special gift, and I'd like you guys to all be up here if you don't mind. Desmond, please come up. Well, Desmond Meade, in appreciation from the School of Justice, from Miami-Dade College North Campus, from Changemaking at Miami-Dade College, as the Hall of Fame recipient that you are at MDC, let's not forget that, for your encouraging words that will forever inspire Miami-Dade College students to pursue their dreams and reach their stars. Thank you so much, and here's an award presented. So as we close, I want to thank everyone that contributed to today's event. Ms. LaFleur was called out earlier, but I know she has a team. To the whole Changemaking team, a good round of applause. To our media services and campus services, thank you, because if not, this place wouldn't look as beautiful and everything wouldn't have worked as flawlessly as it did. But just want to remind everyone, Changemaking Week is all week long, and we wrap up here at the North Campus with our very own Pink Walk. So I look forward to seeing all of you out there wearing your pink proud on Sunday, and have a great rest of your Changemaking Week, everyone. Thank you.